Welcome to the Women and Money Empowerment Show. My name is Yulin Lee, and I am your host. In these episodes, you will hear my heart-to-heart conversations with women from all walks of life, sharing their wisdom and their journey to success. I hope through these stories, you will find inspirations and affirmation that ordinary people like you and me, we can achieve extraordinary results and live an extraordinary life. Now, let's dive into today's show. Good morning. Welcome, Lydia. Thank you so much for coming on to this Women and Money Empowerment Show. I really appreciate you being here with me.
Thank you, Yulin. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for asking me to come on your show.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I am really excited to have this conversation with you because you are a little bit different from all the other guests that I have invited on the show. And that is you are in the public service area. And so that carries probably a different set of challenges and rewards in itself. And so I would love to dive into those details. And then also, apparently, obviously, being an Asian woman, it's not easy in the politics as well. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that. But before we dive in, could you just give our audience a brief introduction of who is Lydia?
I am actually born to Shanghainese parents and born in Hong Kong at a very young age. Our family, due to my father's employment, we moved to Sudan, which is in Africa. I lived there, went through primary school and middle school in the Sudan. When Sudan had a civil war, to keep me and my brother safe, I was sent to Guam. My brother was sent to New York to live with relatives. So I went to Guam, which is a U.S. territory, and that's where I went to high school as well as to college. I came to America here in the mainland in '88 and have lived in the area ever since. Started off as a merchant, entrepreneur. Basically, I had my own little video shop, video rental. That was back when we still had
Yeah.
VHS tapes and all that, so it was quite fun to see the progression of where we are now. There's no more shops. It's all on TV, streaming, and all that.
Right.
But in any case, and it was near Stanford University, so we had a lot of Stanford children, students. They're not children; they're actually grown-ups. But as time went on and the business changed and the product changed, then I went on to become a realtor. And now I work with my husband, and we're both realtors and in the real estate business and also in the property management business. Actually, I tell people I moonlight as a council member. And this year, in January, I became the mayor of the city of Palo Alto.
Yeah, and that's quite an accomplishment. So congratulations. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing your life journey. And gosh, I didn't know all of that, the background of you, growing up in Sudan and going to school and college in Guam. And so and then now become, a mayor of Palo Alto. What was that one thing that pushed you into the public service area? Like what's driving that move or
It's very interesting. I've thought about that for a long time. What was it? There is not one political bone in me, to tell you the truth, before. And really, just going about my business. But one of the things that I am very passionate about is being a volunteer in our community. I volunteered and joined my neighborhood association on their board of directors and actually helped out with social events as well as with the emergency preparedness program. At work, as realtors, we have also service projects, and my husband and I both were leaders in the realtors service volunteer program, which every year we go out and we survey older folks, seniors, to help them age in place. So we go to their homes and make sure that, things around their house is safe, and to help them do things to correct things in their house so that they remain safe and healthy in there. But mostly what drove me into this public service arena was emergency preparedness, actually. And from there, I got to know so many people in Palo Alto. And in a way, I think there was a development of trust and just the ability to listen to people and not have any formed ideas or formed opinions, but just listening to people. And then as time went on, I just got more and more people who just liked to talk and let me know what is going on in their life. And from there, it developed into a project, a development that was going to be built in my neighborhood on a safe route to School Street, very narrow, and people were concerned about that. So as I investigated, and looked into it, um, I decided to help the movement of revisiting this project. And from there, it just ballooned. And of the mind who likes to say, if you're going to complain about something, you might as well as get involved so you can be part of the solution as well.
Be the
Involved.
change you want to see, right?
Something to that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
something like that. Yes.
Oh, thank you. So that's very interesting. A couple of things you mentioned about, growing that trust and then also, the ability to listen and creating and, managing projects. It sounds like, you've gone through a whole slew of personal growth journey for yourself to now you're blossomed into this new public role. And so can we talk about trust a little bit more maybe? When I listen to you talking, it- what comes to mind, there's two levels of trust. One is the trust that you have built between yourself and the community, but then also maybe there's also element of trust in yourself in pursuing whatever you want to pursue. And so can you elaborate on that or what that's been like?
You said about, learning as I go along and having found myself, and that's the whole journey. It's not like I know what is going to happen. Oftentimes I sit back and I think about, why am I here? And then I look at the progression. As a matter of fact, when I was in emergency prep and leading emergency preparedness and leading that effort, oftentimes I would sit down, and I'm a Catholic, so I went to Catholic schools all my life. So as I'm sitting there praying, I'm asking, so why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I the director of emergency prep? What do I know? But for some reason, I'm given this light bulb flash go off into ideas, and I just think that, that way I just follow it. And, in a way, it's kind of like blind trust. Go and do it and know whether it, and learn from the mistakes in order to do it better. But don't just sit still. So I think that's how I move and move forward. And people's trust in me also helped me trust myself too, because I know I'm doing the right thing. And I actually actively ask for feedback,
Mm.
because every day, even in my age now, and I don't want to divulge it, but I'm still learning.
Mhm.
Every day is a lesson. Every minute is a lesson. I think that when I'm talking to you right now, I'm learning from you a lot of things that you say, just how you provide the question and the reason. And I just want to say, never stop growing and never stop listening to that little voice in you
Mhm. Mhm.
and others also. And be able, I think for me, one of the things that I have been working on is to listen to feedback, constructive or criticism or just plain old nasty.
Mhm.
Listen to it and think about it. Don't just discard it. So I think that's something that I'd like to impart. And I do hold that very dear in terms of listening to feedback.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, the blind trust that you mentioned earlier, I think I would probably call that intuition, right? Is that you actually follow your intuition. And I think that it's huge. That it's a huge part of our personal growth in building the trust and building the confidence in ourselves is the ability to trust our intuition, to listen to our intuition because deep down inside, we all have what it takes. We have the answers, and oftentimes we just
Exactly.
block it. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have it. We absolutely have it. It's just who is by you to help you come out, to help you. And so my husband is actually very instrumental in helping me because I bounce ideas and thoughts off of him. And
Hmm.
then depending on his look on his face or you know what, there's been many times that I've bounced things off him and then he would say, well, you want to be cautious, and I still go out and do it because there's something deep inside me that said, yes, you can go do it, just go and do it and see what happens.
Right,
And
right,
I have to say, I've kind of proven him wrong once or twice, so
right.
gratifying. But with my children as well, now that they're older, there's a different relationship also. But
Hmm.
one
Hmm.
is 35 and the other one is 29. And
Hmm.
so now with those two, I can bounce ideas off them. It's such a interesting, their growth. And when they
Right,
come to that age where we have a different kind of relationship where I can talk to them as adults and actually ask them, what do you think? And then they'll tell me,
right,
well,
right.
this would be great. And then they help me develop ideas. And it's just, yes, trust yourself. Try. There's no harm in trying.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and that's beautiful because I also have two children, they're in their early, my daughter's 23 and my son is 20. And so they are also, becoming an adult. And so I can definitely feel the shift in how we communicate and, really take advantage of the fact that they can provide a completely different perspective from their generation, right? It's both it's a life experience, but also just generational. We have different
Right.
perspectives, and it's always nice to see a different perspective. So you mentioned listening, and I think that's also another thing that probably is a big challenge for a lot of us is what does it mean when we listen, like how do we really listen? And so whether it's listening to the public feedback or listening to your inner voice. And so can you share some of your thoughts on that?
I'll go back. I'll tell a story when my daughter was younger and she was in high school. In high school years, their emotions are just up and down, up and down. And one day she came home and she was crying. So I sat down with her and asked her what's going on. And she started to tell me, and I said, I'm going to go and do this and do that. And she said, Mom, can't you just listen to me? I didn't tell you to do anything. Just listen to what I just need someone to listen to me. And it occurred to me right there, yes, I am mother, and that tiger or lioness or, bear comes out to want to go and protect them and solve their problem and take down whoever hurt them and so forth. But she can do it herself. And she said to me, just listen to me, just sit there and listen. And I think from that very moment on, it kind of hit me that people might just want me to hear them. And
Mhm,
so I listen. And if they want help, I ask, so would you like me to do anything? So
mhm.
now I ask instead of just diving into it. Um,
Right, right.
and in public service, most of the time it's a reactory thing because we don't seem to enforce, but rather react to when somebody complains. Personally, I don't find that to be a good way because
Mhm,
it wastes a lot of time. And then also, I think you start off already in a negative note when
mhm,
when
mhm,
somebody's already complaining, they're already not happy. I've
mhm,
had many times people call me and they're yelling because they're so unhappy about something.
mhm,
After I listened and they vent it all out, and then I said, so would you like me to help you?
mhm,
Uh, you know, tell me more or something like that. And then you hear this immediate calm. So I think, just affording them that ear just helps so much to bring some calm and some relief
mhm,
and just know that they're being heard. And then trusting my voice, my inner voice, with your question is quiet time.
mm,
Some people tell me they meditate. I,
mhm,
I don't know how to meditate, Yulin.
mhm,
When I sit down and be quiet, there's all these things talking in my brain. It's even louder than when I'm. But I think that when I pray, when
Mm,
I'm praying, things happen.
mhm,
Um, I pray when I'm driving, just,
mm,
just talking to God. And
mm,
then sometimes something would happen and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. I mean, it just comes out of my mouth as
mhm,
I'm talking, you know.
mhm,
And sometimes just quiet time praying and then things happen.
mhm.
So
Well,
it's
that's your
just,
form of meditation.
I just can't sit there and be quiet because, oh, all the
Right,
thoughts is in my head.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Uh,
for sharing that because I can really relate to, the listening part, especially, when it comes to, our kids. And I can totally relate to this urge of being a mother wanting to solve all of their problems. And I've had also multiple times with my children telling me, can you just listen and not, give me a solution, but just listen. And so that is definitely something that probably we all struggle a little bit, but also, it's something that we all, work towards being a better listener. So
Well, and
thank
then
you
we
for
can
sharing that.
take what they said and learn from it and take it to other situations. And I think
Right.
that's what I did, with them.
Right. And I think for me, sometimes, and I don't know if this is true for other people, when I think about listening, sometimes I also equate that to agreeing. So when I say, yeah, I'm listening, I feel like sometimes and that's my projection, that there's the expectation that if you agree with me, that means you're listening to me. But if you disagree with me, then you're not listening to me because you're still disagreeing, right? And so I think there's a part kind of the nuances of listening that I've had to learn is to make it explicit, to say I hear you, I'm listening, I hear you, even though I may not agree with whatever you say.
Mhm.
And so anyway, so that's just I think listening is a big learning journey for all of
It
us.
is a learning journey. I mean, I never thought about it that way. Yeah. Oh, another thing about listening, in the old days, even now for me, when we're talking about listening to people, there's the eye to eye contact, right?
Mhm.
But then I've also come to realize that for some people it's auditory, not visual.
Mhm.
So the eye to eye actually is so focused at looking at you in your eye that you're missing what they're really trying to say.
Mhm.
So I think that at some level, you also have to learn how people hear,
Mhm. Mhm.
and how. So for me, actually, um, I'm actually auditory. I find that sometimes when people are speaking, I have to look away so that
Mhm.
I can hear. But
Mhm.
when I'm focused on them, then I miss some words here and there.
Right,
So
right,
that's something that I'm also kind of working. So because I recognize that, I work towards it.
right.
So it's kind of interesting when I start recognizing these deficiencies that I have, and,
Mhm.
and then recognizing it is first acknowledging it, and then working towards how to resolve it so that
Mhm.
it doesn't hinder me. So those are all self-discoveries, right?
Yeah. That's huge. That's a huge part of this journey of getting into the public space because um as I think about it again, I'm not, somebody who's like politically, driven. And so when I think about public service and I sometimes think, oh man, you really need to have thick face or thick skin or, to be able to weather all the the battles that you may come across as a mayor or whatever other political position you hold. And so but it all comes down to it takes courage. And
Mhm.
so I would love for you to speak about maybe courage. Oh, is that what you have in the back?
Yeah, a friend of mine, when I was running for council, I have a photo, and then he took that, and I think I had expressed I really liked former President Barack Obama's photo, with all the colors, and then he went and he made me this and put courage underneath it. So I thought, oh, that is really super sweet.
I saw the picture, but I couldn't see the words underneath it. But okay, well, yeah. So can you share like what does it feel like? I mean, does it feel like you're being courageous or, because sometimes it's for us to see from outside and that you're being very courageous, to step into this position. But what does it feel like from inside? Do you tell yourself, "Oh, I have to be courageous," or something else that drives work?
Once upon a time, I was actually very scared. I was always uncertain whether I was doing the right thing or not. But I always fell back on the motto from emergency prep to do the best for the most number of people. Because
Mm,
in emergency prep, we're always triaging, right, to
mm,
see what we do, how we're going to save the most number of people. Some, unfortunately, we might have to leave behind, but what is the better good for the greater number of people? So I always fall back on that. And I know at the beginning I wanted to please everybody, everybody. And it would make me miserable because I also know that I am not.
mhm,
And then, in order for me not to fall into depression or anything like that, because I'm not achieving that high level that I want to please everybody, I had to tell myself, if you're going to keep on doing this service, you're going to have to start, letting go and not be so hard on yourself. Because if I'm not well, I'm not going to do well for anybody else.
mhm,
And also, if I think a lot of it also has to do with, at the end of the day,
mhm,
and you look at the people that you love the most and who loves you the most,
mhm,
can you look them in the eye and
mhm,
that they are um, what they believe in you is still there. And
mhm,
that would be my family, my children, and my husband, because obviously for my children, I'm setting an example,
mhm, mhm,
as well as for many other for youth, right? Other youth. So at the end of the day, that's what I ask myself. And I look in their eyes to see if I had misstepped
mhm,
and lost some of their trust and
mhm,
belief in
mhm.
me.
Yeah, yeah. So, thank you for sharing that because I think, um, actually, as I'm listening to you, I have a couple of thoughts that just came to my mind. One is we can't serve everyone, and I think that's true in our business as well. And I can totally relate to that. I actually myself had a very pivotal moment late last year in my own business where I surrendered to the fact that I can't serve everyone and I can only serve the people who want to be served and also who are ready to do the work themselves. And I think part of that shift that helped me is recognizing that even though I cannot help everyone, because part of wanting to help everyone is the thought of I don't want to leave anybody behind. And so I have to somehow ease that concern. And what I came to realize is that the people that I cannot serve, there'll be other people who can serve them in that place, right? So in that time. And so, that also helped me, like a little bit of letting go and surrendering to acknowledging the fact that every one of us at the individual level, we can't serve everybody in the world, but we can serve the right people who resonates with our message, who, share the same common cause or, whatever. So yeah, and that's a big relief for all of us, right?
It impacts stress levels and
Mhm,
health, everything, and it takes up precious brain space
mhm, mhm.
because it you end up thinking about it so much that you're not you, that I am not productive anymore.
Right, right,
Because I'm constantly thinking about how not only is it just sad, but also it pulls me into depression and trying to figure out something, and there's no way around it. When I could be doing something else to help somebody else or help the person who's asking for help in a small way. But in my position, we do a lot of policy making.
mhm,
When you do policy, it's not going to please everybody,
right, right,
but it's how do you do a policy that would help the most number of people in this town?
right.
So that was a lot of talking to myself and
Yeah,
pray. I'm not gonna lie. There are days that I cried and cried and cried, trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what happened? But and a good cry is good.
yeah. It's a
Like,
good release, right?
you know, sometimes you just need to kind of let it out, and once it's over, it's like, okay, back to work. Now
Right,
it's cleared. It's
right.
just rain.
Right,
You
right.
know, you have air that has a lot of pollen, the rain comes down, it's clean, so
Thank you. And so, you also another thing I wanted to touch on is role modeling, right? Role modeling for your children, something that you mentioned earlier, but also, um, I would like to elaborate on that a little bit because being an Asian woman in politics, can you share what that's like? Whether you feel like there's extra layers of challenges, and if there is, what are they? And then also, how and if you can just elaborate, how would you set the role model for the younger generation, the younger girls who are trying to decide now, what is their career path, and any words of wisdoms there?
I think modeling, I never know who is watching or who is listening, especially because it's what I do is in public. So I try very hard to make it personal, and I bring myself a lot into it. Who I am is continuing to understand that my position is to serve people. So continuing to be humble, authentic, and just be real.
Mm.
And a lot of times when public officials get into the official seats, it's hard to say how, okay, let me repeat, let me go back. When we come into this official position, there's a lot of things that's thrown at us. We get letters from other officials that calls us the Honorable Lydia Kou, and it's such big words, and it can go to your head, if you let it, right? But at the end of the day, I oftentimes tell myself, who is it that I'm serving? Is it myself? It's nice to hear, oh, the Honorable Lydia, or whatnot. But at the end of the day, I have to have my feet on the ground because I need to know what the temperature is, what people who are living real lives are going through. So interacting with people is very important, just to hear from them. Again, goes back to listening. But the is one of the things that I am lucky with is I can just go up to, and I think that's why I'm a realtor, and I had a business that was like a video rental where you have to have that interpersonal relationships, and you just have to be able to go to people and talk to them, ask them questions. And when you ask questions, people tell you. After a while, they start talking and you learn more. And as a role model, just being humble and having boots on the ground and being realistic about life.
The second question was about, being Asian woman
Oh, yeah.
in politics. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting, because I grew up in the Sudan and grew up on Guam. I never really looked at myself that way.
Mm.
And, when I was younger, my friends in Sudan and mostly in Sudan actually would tease, about my Chinese eyes, how they go,
Right, 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 right.
yeah. And I never thought anything of it, just kind of,
Mhm.
okay, you guys are making fun of me. And, I didn't think of that as something that was, a difficult. But I'll tell you, running for council, there was the model minority. Now that when I go back and think about it, I did get treated a little bit like, uh, because many people say that I'm a little bit too soft spoken. I need to be a little bit more assertive with how I speak, but I'm not that kind of person. So even though I tried, I told myself, I appreciate the advice and the suggestions, but at the end of the day, I am me. I have my own style, and that's the style that I'm going to go with
Mhm.
because I'm comfortable in it. Um, and I will say what I need to say, but I'm comfortable in it. And when, people try to suppress me, through time, I've learned how to control perhaps the anger that comes through and just shake it off because I don't need to react to it because it empowers them. Actually, if I react to it, I just stand up and not allow them to suppress me. That's the only thing I can do, but not to react to it is a very big thing because it empowers them. Yeah, and I find that sometimes women don't like other women.
Mm. Mhm.
We have a movement now that says, hey, we're women, so let's band together and help each other. But I'll tell you, I have experienced women, I have a lot of women friends that are really great and have been very, very supportive and have held my hand through things. But there are also women who has tried to, tear me down, put me down because I am Asian.
Mhm.
But luckily for me, because it, I've lived in international surroundings, I don't think I view myself as that. And when they did it, I am, I guess I didn't know that they're doing it, so it just went over my head, and it has not really bothered
Right,
me
right.
so much.
So I think what it really comes down to is what you said earlier. It's a form of resilience. Whether you recognize somebody else's behavior as whether it's a racist remark or gesture, you can acknowledge it and react to it, or you can acknowledge it and not react to it. And when you don't react to it, you're actually holding on to your power. And so I so resonate with that because in my line of work, doing financial coaching for women, sometimes I come across like men who are talking about money and finance. They bring a very different energy. It's a lot of it is by, kind of the energy that they carry is about force. It's about power. And for me, I also I feel like I carry a lot of power, but that power is from within me. It's not how I force it on other people or how to force things to happen. And so it's that distinguishing between that external power that we can see and feel versus the internal power that comes from within that just naturally comes through in your resilience and makes you someone who's unstoppable in what you're trying to accomplish.
So, you said you mentioned that men, when they're in the same business and when they talk about money and finance and all of that, they bring in a certain power. And the thing is, have you experienced when you bring in this as a woman and as an Asian woman, is there a different uh, feeling or a different opinion from other women who might have this other way of viewing women who talks about money and
Mm.
finance?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to clarify what I said earlier. It's not just men in the finance money business. I'm talking about men in general.
Mhm,
When they deal with money, this is my observation, obviously, and I'm generalizing, and it doesn't mean everyone behaves this way. But my observation is, that generally speaking, men are a lot more kind of cut and dry when it comes to money. It's like, what do we need to do? Let's get it done. Da, 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 da. It's very action oriented. It's this forcefulness of get it done, right? Versus when women talk about money and finance, they somehow and I think a lot of it has to do with our upbringing. How girls are raised
mhm,
in the family, or and then their identity, in terms of what's their role in the family and what's their role in the society, right? And oftentimes, women grow up, with this concept of, well, money is a man's job. My job is to take care of the kids and the family. And and that's over time, that's what makes them small. And so they don't carry that necessarily that forcefulness, kind of when we talk about our kids, right?
mhm,
Our mother instinct, kicks in right away. I want to protect it. I'm going to take on the whole world to protect my little baby. So as women, we have that in us.
mhm,
We do that for our children, but
mhm,
we don't do that in the area of money and finance. We often make ourselves so small. It's like, oh, I don't really know anything. Oh, I don't know. I'll ask my husband. Oh, my husband takes care of that. It's a lot of that. And so what I'm, through coaching, what I'm really trying to promote is, yeah, we need to, you know, collect our power again, but that power is from within because we have it. We do that with our children. And so we just need to remember to use the same energy with our finances, to make sure that we are, fiscally responsible ourselves and financially independent in our own rights.
right.
To answer your question about between women, in the area of money and finance, I don't necessarily see the dynamics. I know what you're talking about, between women. Maybe I hear that in corporations, oftentimes a very male dominated corporation, the environment, maybe you have a couple of women, you would think that they would be, working together, band together, but oftentimes because of the competition, they actually fight with each other or whatever, right? So I've heard these scenarios in corporations and I could imagine in politics. But in the area of money and finance, more at the personal level, I don't really I don't really experience that. I think oftentimes we can actually have very similar conversations once we open up.
Mhm.
um, it becomes like a floodgate, like we start talking about, yeah, this and that. And so it is one area that I think we're actually very fortunate that we can band together in a more cohesive way to help each other out.
Oh, that's actually really wonderful to hear.
All right. Well, thank you so much. But before we wrap up, I have a couple of questions that I ask all of my guests. So, what is your definition of success?
Really feeling grounded and really feeling happy with myself. Um, at peace with
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
Um, oftentimes when we're growing up, we're really wondering. I find that right now I'm just at peace with myself and continuing to, flourish, still continuing to flourish, but there's the peace there also.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well,
And to me, that is actually success.
yeah, yeah. And I can so resonate with that as well.
Mhm, mhm.
So how does money show up for you? Or what you've, whether it's your personal life or how you view it showing up in the public service area as well.
You have a roof over your head, and it's just enough, knowing, just feeling secure, the security that it provides.
Hmm.
And I've got, there was once upon a time, I wanted to be this billionaire or trillionaire and be like Warren Buffett and all that. But I've come to enough,
Hmm.
just enough, and you have the security and the peace, knowing that, you're able to leave something for your children, and we don't have to be extravagant.
Hmm.
Um, so that's where money is for me. And it, a lot of it came out in this last years when I'm in public service. I see, people who are living on the streets in RVs. There are children who their home is not a great place to be. They end up in the coffee shop doing homework because that's the only
Mm.
place that they have peace and quiet. I see seniors who are choosing whether the limited income they have, whether they're paying for their medicine or a meal, or are they going to pay for a meal or electricity? So that really kind of helped me shape that money is as long as you just have enough, and to give back. So,
Hmm.
what are some of the favorite charities um, that mean something to you and give back? Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your words of wisdom. I hope our listeners can learn from your journey and to go pursue. You could be born anywhere, growing up anywhere, but still go pursue your beliefs and your passion and the causes that you are passionate about. So thank you so much.
And I just want to encourage all the youth who are growing, even though they learn so much at school. Learn more, ask more questions, and be individuals. Look through all the things that people are saying and their opinions, and formulate your own opinions based on good information.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's a development, that individuality. So
Yeah,
I hope that the youth can work on that.
great, great. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to the Women and Money Empowerment Show. If you ever have doubt for moments about yourself, your capability, or your worthiness, please remember to keep coming back to these stories and lean in. Draw the wisdom and strength from these incredible women and know that you also have what it takes to live a fulfilling life. Until next time, have a fabulous day.